Mary had a little man.
The fault. We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon.
I have a dream today.
Change has come to America.
Believe me.
Help is on the way.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show. Turn up your mind.
Overnight, an emotional return home for 3 Americans wrongfully detained in Russia, all released as part of a historic international prisoner exchange involving 7 countries. President Biden and Vice President Harris joining family members at Joint Base Andrews to welcome them back to the U.S.
How did you process this moment?
Great satisfaction and a feeling of relief for the family.
Among those now home, Wall Street Journal reporter Evan Gershkovich, arrested while on assignment. Just last month, Gershkovich had been sentenced to 16 years for spying charges in what both the U.S. and the Journal called a sham trial. NBC Philadelphia speaking with Gershkovich after he landed.
Evan, how are you feeling?
I'm all right. It was a good flight.
Journalist Alsu Kurmasheva also freed. Kurmasheva touching down in time to celebrate her daughter's 13th birthday. The 3rd Marine veteran Paul Whelan speaking after arriving in Texas this morning.
Thank you for all your prayers, your good wishes.
Whelan was arrested in 2018 on espionage charges while attending a wedding, serving time in a notorious Russian penal colony. The U.S. government that long rejected those charges has been working for years to secure his release. But Whelan was excluded from 2 previous swaps, including when the U.S. exchanged a notorious arms dealer for WNBA star Brittany Griner. Griner, who is currently representing the U.S. women's basketball team in Paris, calling it a great day. The president earlier with family members at the White House touting the complex diplomatic efforts that involved months of negotiations.
Today is a powerful example of why it's vital to have friends in this world.
National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan becoming emotional as he discussed conversations with the families yesterday.
Not today. Today, excuse me. Today was a very good day.
In exchange for the American prisoners, 8 Russians convicted on a range of cyber, financial, and violent crimes returned to Moscow Thursday, receiving a hero's welcome from President Putin. For the freed Americans, a long-awaited homecoming, officials say, the culmination of nearly 2 years of effort by the Biden administration. The president aides here say spearheading this deal, even on the phone with a European counterpart while home in Delaware with COVID just an hour before he announced he was dropping out of the 2024 presidential race, and personally lobbying the German chancellor to help facilitate this swap. Olaf Scholz responding, according to an official here, "For you, I will do this."
Wow. Look at this, everybody. Look at that. That is a full-page welcome home from the Wall Street Journal for Evan Gershkovich. Everybody says it different. I mean, it's a Russian thing, okay? And then this one, freedom does not exist without a free press. See that there? It's beautiful. So why are the Republicans crapping all over it? Because they don't have anything else to do. Yeah, it's sad. Did you see Simone Biles? Not just the performance, which was, oh my God, and that girl from Brazil, the one in the yellow, in case you were, watching with the sound down. Wow. So it was gold Biles, the Brazilian girl, and then Suni Lee, bronze, gymnastics. Oh my God. And then Simone Biles. Here, this is also in the papers today. I bring the papers because I don't think you see them ever. I don't think anybody even knows what this feels like. Oh, it's dreamy. Okay. This is like, well, I'll line my birdcage with it. No, it's an amazing thing, the newspaper. Anyway, Simone Biles tweeted, I love my black job. Oh! I love that girl. That girl is, she's pint-sized and gravity does not exist for her. None of these gymnasts. I mean, I was telling Brett, they live in a world where there is no such thing as orbital gravity. There is no such thing as, any natural force that would hold a person down to the ground. It just doesn't exist. And I tell you, the girl from Brazil, she was so powerful that when she was doing, whatever those moves are, like I said, the Olympics, you don't need to know anything about the sport, nothing at all. And I don't. I honestly don't. I was not a gymnastics mom. Okay, so I don't have, and I was never good at it. And in New York, they didn't even bother with it. It was more field hockey, as I've mentioned to you, and fencing. That was more New York thing. Handball, paddleball, perhaps, a little black ball for excitement. But honestly, I have no idea, anything except that it's a 2/10 penalty if both feet are outside of the. That's all I know. But I was watching this Brazilian girl yesterday, and I swear to God, she was so powerful that I really thought she was going to leave the Earth's atmosphere. Do you know what I'm saying? And experience weightlessness and this. You know how when you leave the atmosphere, there's no more sunlight. It's just black. I really thought it was just the whole atmosphere, as the camera panned up to follow her, was going to be, black. I just thought the sky was going to be completely dark.
Speaking to just how incredible these ladies are, and Simone Biles in particular, at one point on her floor routine, she was 12 feet in the air. And
See?
I thought to myself immediately, well, a basketball hoop's 10 feet plus the backboard, that's about 12 feet. Imagine her running, jumping over an entire basketball hoop.
Without using her hands. That's a thing. That's apparently a thing, that you have to have these maneuvers. You have to do these moves without. I know this on the balance beams. People will correct me on the floor exercise. I don't know what the what the requirements are, the technical elements, if you will. See, I've been watching. Are, but I do know on the balance beam, which by the way is the size. It's the width of a credit card. Can you imagine that? They're doing this on something that is off the ground, the width of a credit card. Wow. Anyway, so I do know that you have to do some hands-free somersaults. I don't even know if I'm saying that right, but you know what I'm saying? I mean, I just, it's mind-blowing. And then she, obviously, this was a sport that I remember, Nadia Comaneci. I don't know how many people, of course, Nadia Comaneci. Again, it's a Eastern European thing. But I remember this, and these girls were 14, 15 years old, right? The Chinese used to smuggle in 10-year-olds and give them fake birth certificates and say they were 14, but they were really 10-year-olds. Nothing as supple as a 10-year-old on a balance beam. So, but think about Simone Biles being 27 years old. At 27, I already had a herky in my caducci. Do you know what I'm saying? 27 years old, I already couldn't touch my toes. You know what I'm saying? It's and it's just an amazing thing. It's an amazing thing to watch. I got so much pleasure out of it. And then after that, I went upstairs, and took off my makeup and all that good stuff. And, started my melatonin experience to try and, settle down, go to sleep. And then the airplanes started to, be in American airspace, and there was no way I could turn it off. So I stayed up till, 12:30, just watching the reunion between Gershkovich and his mother. The story about his mom is really pretty incredible. She started, according to reports, she started scouring information to see who might be a high-value Russian prisoner in a jail anywhere in the world. Okay, and she's the first person apparently that identified this Krasnikov, assassin, this guy that killed Chechen fighters that had fled after Vlad and Radimov just massacred people. I mean, if you don't know what happened in the Chechen wars, oh my God, it was just the most disgusting things. I mean, rape was totally a weapon. All the time, every day, disappearances, etc. These Chechen fighters fought back.
All things Randi at RandiRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
Douchebag says what?
Do you have a reaction to the news that just came out about the prisoner swap that will bring 2 Americans back home potentially?
Look, I think it's great news, at least what little we know. We certainly want these Americans to come back home. It was ridiculous that they were in prison to begin with, but we have to ask ourselves, why are they coming home? And I think it's because bad guys all over the world recognize Donald Trump's about to be back in office, so they're cleaning house. That's a good thing, and I think it's a testament to Donald Trump's strength. You're
a psycho. He's not president. Hasn't been for a really long time. Nobody is afraid of that guy. People just mock him. They're making fun of him. In fact, if anything, Putin flipped him the bird because Putin knows Kamala's going to be the president of the United States. By the way, today we made history in this country. Kamala Harris actually had the virtual nomination that has been going on since yesterday, and enough delegates had thrown their support to Kamala Harris to be the Democratic presidential nominee in 2024, and she had crossed the threshold, and she is, it's crazy. She wasn't even challenged. I mean, it is an open process, for those who are going to, repeat the swill that comes out of the pie hole, okay, that the Orange Jesus likes to spew. I mean, he is just beside himself with, envy and, jealousy. I mean, he's out of his mind because Kamala's raising more money than he is. Kamala is outclassing him. She's getting excitement that he can't get. Her rallies are bigger. Her Zoom calls are ginormous. I mean, you're talking Zoom calls with over 100,000 people on them night after night after night. It's really an amazing thing. And you know how they always say the Democrats are like herding cats? The Democratic Party is so difficult. You have so many factions and everybody's such a free thinker and they all think for themselves and everybody's got a constituency that they care about and they're all diverse and different because this one could be from, Dearborn and that one could be from Brooklyn and this one could be from West Palm Beach and that one could be from Las Vegas. And they're so different. They have different concerns. And so the phrase about our party being together on any damn thing it's like herding cats. Well, cat lady herself, Kamala, actually managed to keep the entire party unified around her nomination for the last 2 weeks. That is an incredible feat. That is the most magical thing I've ever seen done with our party. The only other person that I'm even remotely familiar with that ever was able to hold Democratic coalitions of various, ideologies together, whether it was blue dogs, yellow dogs, progressives, the Congressional Black Caucus, this one, that one, freedom. Well, we don't have freedom crackers. They do. But is Nancy Pelosi. That is the only human I've ever seen doing superhuman things with regard to legislating, which was her job. She's now Speaker Emerita, but Speaker of the House. It was a very difficult job. And she did it magnificently. And, Kamala seems to have that touch, that gift, that ability to do just that because, as I mentioned, it is an open process. So if anybody wanted to challenge her, all they had to do was get 300 delegates to nominate them. And then you would have had what they call a contested convention. You would have had people voting at the convention for anybody or all the bodies that got 300 delegates to introduce their name for consideration during the nominating process. However, not one person challenged Kamala Harris. Not one Democrat even tried to get 300 delegates to counter her or to be a counterweight to her or to upset, her nomination. Now, the Republicans, they lie. So I'm not even going to try and explain, why they keep saying it's a coup, but, they do. They're lying because these are politicians. They know exactly what the process is. They're not stupid on process. They understand it. They know it. So they're just bald-faced lying. And J.D. Vance is standing there lying to you. Why they sent him to some far remote corner of the border to make it look as if they're still building the wall. Did you see that? Here, just put this photograph up. I don't.
Do you have a reaction to?
I don't need to play what he's saying, but look at this. Okay, look, you got like some nice clean. Look, no mud on there, nothing. Nice clean props brought in here that look like they're at work. and then a section of fence that was replaced by the border wall. That's all that is. And JD just being sent out there to stand there in a plaid shirt and pretend that he understands like how to operate any of this machinery, which is a joke. It's a joke. So, yeah. But I have to tell you, it's an amazing thing that she was able to do. Everybody's like, why hasn't she sat down with the press? What? Do you understand what she's been doing for the last 2 weeks? Oh, my God. Just look at one day's schedule. Yesterday, she was at like 8 different things in Houston, okay? And then she had to fly back to Andrews Air Force Base at like 11 o'clock at night to be with Biden because Biden wanted her on the tarmac to greet and receive the people that were wrongfully imprisoned in Russia that were released because of the result of Biden. See, I gotta tell you, that was real dark, Brandon. This hostage release, that is like a classic, unbelievably, insanely meeting the moment dark, Brandon. You know, they a lot of people have written him off. Yes, I get it. And he has actually done the right thing in that people were not excited about his candidacy. They weren't lining up to vote for him the way they are for Kamala. He saw that. He met that moment too. He sacrificed his desire for a second term, his dream second term for the benefit of this nation, and knows that we'd be in wonderful hands if he handed it off to Kamala, had all the confidence in the world in her, and demonstrated his selflessness, his love of this country, and ripping the defeat out of, that he saw coming out of a possibility of, this election, and handed her the baton happily, invited her on the tarmac. Can you imagine Trump doing that? Can you imagine Trump standing on the tarmac to greet people who he negotiated for their release with his vice president so that his vice president could take partial credit in what was a ninja move that Doc Brandon was able to accomplish?
This is an extraordinary day, and I'm very thankful for our president and what he has done over his entire career, but in particular as it relates to these families and these individuals, what he has been able to do to bring the allies together on many issues, but in particular this one.
I mean, it's a beautiful moment. It's an American moment. It's a shared moment. The entire country that, believes in freedom and that people being, taken away wrongfully and imprisoned in Russia, where, by the way, there's no defense, there's no justice, there's no real court proceedings, okay? It's a rigged court, it's a kangaroo court. It's like Putin calls the judge and tells him what he wants the verdict to be, I swear to God, and that is what the verdict is. That would look more like this place if he wins.
Call in, connect. To speak to Randy, call 561-270-3844. 561-270-3844.
Evan Gershkovich, the reporter for the Wall Street Journal who is being held by Russia, will be released almost immediately after the election, but definitely before I assume office. Vladimir Putin, president of Russia, will do that for me, and I don't believe he'll do it for anyone else.
I have a hostage, a Wall Street Journal reporter, I think a good guy, and he's over there because Putin is laughing at this guy, probably asking for billions of dollars for the reporter. I will have him out very quickly, as soon as I take office. Before I take office, I said by literally as soon as I win the election, I will have that reporter out. He should have had him out a long time ago.
You didn't want to show that?
I did it just a bit early.
Oh, my God. Yeah, and Mexico will pay for it. I mean, it's, wow, he's deranged, man. The guy is, he's so jealous. He can't see straight. But you know that the only thing that Trump meant to Putin when Donald Trump was in the White House was that Putin felt like he had somebody on the inside of America who could start to dismantle America from the inside, because we all know, and Putin does too, that America will never be destroyed from without. It will only ever be destroyed from within. And Donald Trump was their guy. He was the one that was going to do it. And if you look at Project 2025, okay, if you actually see that it replaces, experts and civil servants who have been doing jobs for the benefit of the American people for many decades, some of them, others of them are, 5 years in, 10 years in, whatever. And that Donald Trump wants to fire about 50,000 of them and replace them with people who don't take an oath to uphold the Constitution, but take an oath to him. Then you can see just at the outset, okay, the second he gets the key and he puts it in the door, okay, he's talking about dismantling and taking apart the United States. That is the only reason why Vlad found Donald Trump appealing, okay? And the failure of the Trump administration seems to be that all they got were 3 conservative Supreme Court justices who would take away the rights of women and affirmative action and voting rights. That wasn't nearly the wet dream that Putin had for Donald Trump. In fact, Putin didn't care whether or not women had rights. He didn't care whether or not, he cared about America being autocratic and oligarchical so he could do business in the United States, okay? He could do the same kind of business that he does in Russia, where he takes over an industry, or his people take over an industry. They give vig to Donald Trump, right? As a mafia does. You have to pay, the capo. But the capo de capos was Putin. That's what he saw for us. And in order to do that, you have to dismantle the Justice Department. You have to get rid of it. You have to get rid of oversight and habeas corpus, and you have to get rid of due process. You have to get rid of, unrigged jury trials. You have to get rid of prosecutors. You have to get rid of, everybody that we're going to vote for. You got to get rid of all of them. And that's by design. Okay, that's kind of what the next term would look like. If Russia has snitches, Russia has assassins. They can find you anywhere at all. If Vladimir Putin wants you dead, you're dead. That's it. There's no due process. And when you combine that with what the Supreme Court just said about the presidency, that whoever occupies the office, the Oval, has immunity for even criminal acts. Now, you combine that scenario with Donald Trump, you got something that is going to look a whole lot more like Russia than it does America. And I want everybody to imbibe that, digest that, know that, understand that, and then go crap it out, because it has no place here. Okay? Let it be in the wastewater now. Let it be something, behind you. This is not the future for us, okay? This isn't a better, badass country. This is an oligarchical, authoritarian rule that, the autocrats of the world are hoping for. They would love the world's greatest democracy to fail. Do you know how that props them up? Do you understand what that does for them? On every level, even at home with their own people. That's why Vlad was on the tarmac last night welcoming back guys that did internet scams. He did get one violent offender. He got that, Krazakov guy who killed a Chechen, fighter, a Chechen who was fighting against the Soviet invasion of Chechnya, right? And, what Putin did in Chechnya is what it looks like? It looks like Aleppo. It looks like eastern Ukraine and those, bombed out apartment blocks. It looks like Syria. It looks like Gaza even. I mean, the way that people are fighting now looks so Russian to me. It's really ugly. And rape as a weapon, always, very Russian things. Been that way since, my people fled. That's kind of the MO there, And I mean, if you want that here, Trump's your guy. He really is. because they wrote it down. And the Heritage Foundation, who picks our justices now, is also picking the kind of future Americans can look forward to. And it ain't a democratic one. It's not one with due process. It's not one that holds frauds to account. It's not one where consumers are valued. It's not one where gouging is, illegal or finable. It's not one where, corporations pay their fair share. It's not one where people over $400,000 a year pay into Social Security and Medicare. No, it's where they steal the Social Security and Medicare trust fund. It's where there is no due process, where you live in fear that your neighbor could drop a dime on you in order to get extra bread. That is really what the Heritage Foundation wrote down. It's what they wrote down. And I just want everybody to know it's there. So it is written, so it be done. I mean, it's their wish for you. They hate you. We're difficult, We're like herding cats. We all have opinions, and we all have different, views of what is family. We all have different views of what is, happiness and what fills us with joy. We all want to, move freely about the country, but if you're pregnant already, that's become iffy, if not impossible. See what I mean? And once they come after one thing, they come after all things. If one person's not free, no one is.
This is the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
Former President Donald Trump talking about alliances as basically like transactional racketeering style things, right? You give me something, I give you something. And NATO's all about money and how much, and Putin can have his way with you if you don't, spend 2%. And now his allies are saying maybe it'll be 5% of spending. And this just shows, again, this is what alliances are, that it takes a lot of work, you put in a lot, and eventually down the line you might get something. And I think this is also a message like what Olaf Scholz said, that he would do this for Biden, but would he have done this for Trump?
Well, so did that weigh into Vladimir Putin's calculus in this?
We don't know, but I would speculate that absolutely. I think what I've been hearing over the last few months from Moscow, from sources close to the Kremlin, is that there's deep frustration and bitterness toward Trump. On one hand, they would love Trump to win because, as one former advisor to President Medvedev told me once, that they see Donald Trump as our wrecking ball. So he's invaluable to them in that sense, that he's their wrecking ball from the inside. On the other hand, he talks a big game about sanctions relief for the Russians, but then his administration rolls out more sanctions. He talks about no more aid for Ukraine, no more blank checks to Ukraine, but then he doesn't do anything, in Moscow's view, to lean on Speaker Mike Johnson and keep the Ukraine supplemental from coming to a vote on the floor. And people are still very bitter about that in Moscow. Yeah. So it's kind of like, okay, you want to have a transactional relationship, Donald, but what have you done for us lately? Yeah. And then the second thing is, the braggadocio you see coming from Trump. The way he spoke about the release of Evan Gershkovich. He said Vladimir Putin will absolutely do this after I'm elected, before I'm sworn in. We won't have to pay anything. And he'll do it for me, but he won't do it for anyone else. And I imagine Vladimir Putin sitting in the Kremlin, hearing that and saying, oh, really? Nobody tells me what to do. I'm the senior partner here. I'm not the lapdog. And so I see this as a bit of a bird to the former president.
The middle finger, as you... Okay, got it.
Right. It was the bird. It was the middle finger that Putin was giving to Donald Trump because Donald Trump hasn't done anything for him lately. And his Speaker of the House, Mr. Johnson there, actually allowed for the Ukrainian, package, the defense package, to get passed, right? See, and so Vlad's like, screw you. I'm done with you. The only good thing about you was that you were on the inside. We helped get you in there. You covered for it. And, we were hoping that we could destroy America that way. But you didn't do enough. You just didn't. And so, we see the Heritage Foundation. We understand what it is and blah, blah, blah. But, Kamala's going to beat you. She just is, because your entire campaign is a mess. You're a mess. You are a weirdo, okay? You're not very smart. You really have no place playing on the world stage. You lie to Americans saying that you do, but we know you better. You know, pushing the Prime Minister of Montenegro out of the way at a NATO meeting didn't exactly destroy NATO. And you know what, Donald? It got bigger. Yeah, the NATO got bigger. Now it's got Sweden and Norway, who also got prisoners back in this deal. So you know what the message was. You know what it was about. And it wasn't a pro-Trump message, JD, you phony, you freak, you lying sack of crap. Go tell your friend over there at Heritage Foundation. You know, Kevin Roberts, who's the guy that said that they want to have this revolution in America, meaning a complete gutting of the way that we live, a complete gutting of our government, a complete gutting of democracy. That's what 2025 is. And Kevin Roberts is now the new head at the Heritage Foundation, right? And he said, you know, we want a coup, and it could be bloodless if the left lets it be. Meaning he's threatening violence if his project doesn't get implemented, and that if the left resists, if there's any resistance, this is how Vladimir Putin talks, you know. If there's any resistance, you know, we'll just, we'll find a way to, you know, imprison them at the very least, and something worse at the very worst, right? Kevin Roberts is J.D. Vance's handler. Kevin Roberts is who gave Donald Trump J.D. Vance's name and said, this is going to be your vice president. We know this because no matter how much Trump denies that he knows anything about the Heritage Foundation, Donald Trump was at the Heritage Foundation. He was at the Heritage Foundation in 2022 when Heritage actually said, okay, we're going to write it down now. And Steve Bannon has been very, you know, by the way, he's still in prison. It's a good day. But anyway, Steve Bannon was the one on his, you know, ridiculous show on, you know, Rumble or whatever his platform was saying, okay, so next time we're going to be more prepared. Next time we're going to have shock troops and we're going to train them and they're going to rush into the government, see, and we're going to fire all the civil servants and we're going to make the government answerable to us, to Trump, right? Only. And he's been saying this on his, you know, stupid show for years now, for like 3 years, okay? And that is what was written down by Heritage. And Donald Trump went to Heritage and, you know, endorsed the writing of this project at the very outset. And he knows exactly what's in it. Not that he would read 900 pages, but they write down on a little note card exactly what the next move is. And one of the most recent moves was, you're going to take J.D. Vance. You're going to take him because he's our guy, you see. And what the plan actually does is not just replaces the government with, you know, toadies, but it also guts the Department of Justice, meaning it's no longer an independent Department of Justice. It's now a department that answers to the president. So the president can now use DOJ as his personal law firm to make your life a living hell, the way it is in Russia, where they just come and get you. Oh, no warrant? Screw you. You know who I am? Do you know who I am? See, it's like that. It's like that. And you give them any, you know, don't be so nice. Don't, you know, you see when they put you in the car and they protect your head, I say, don't be so nice. That's the kind of country it's going to be, okay? Now, before this, he talked about that. Now he's going to actually have to execute on it. And that's kind of the deal. And that's why we got, you know, idiot boy J.D. Vance. And I got to tell you something. This is like an amazing thing. J.D. Vance has a law school classmate. I didn't play it because I wasn't really sure of her pronouns, really, honestly. And I didn't know how to discuss Sophia with you. But Sophia goes by she and her. So now I do. But Sophia was on with Erin Burnett the other night. She had gone to law school. She went to Yale with J.D. Vance. And she said, you know, I listen to him now and I understand. He's a chameleon. He's a chameleon.
What I've seen is a chameleon, someone who is able to change their positions and their values depending on what will amass them political power and wealth. And I think that's really unfortunate because it reflects a lack of integrity. This isn't someone who evolved on one or two issues and with new information. This is someone who has changed their opinion on literally every imaginable issue that affects everyday Americans in this country and changed the way they speak about people. So the J.D. Vance that I was friends with for over a decade was compassionate, and we frequently disagreed. That's reflected in the emails. But he always approached conversations with respect and kindness, which I think is so essential. And what we've seen with Donald Trump is a callousness and a cruelty in the way he talks about people. A bullying, right? He's a bully and he calls people names. And when JD decided to run for the Senate in 2022, he started adopting that similar persona, so anathema to who he used to be. And it's reflected in his Twitter. It's obviously reflected in the cat lady's comment. And it was reflected in our interpersonal communications and the end of our friendship. He just started talking in this divisive, dismissive, and cruel way about people who were different from him. And that is just not the person that I used to know.
No, they had a very close friendship. In fact, J.D. Vance had, referred to her in Hillbilly Elegy and apologized to her because he referred to her as a pragmatic lesbian or something. And she laughed it off and said, if you identified me as, and then she put, the way she identifies, people wouldn't even understand. So don't worry about it. They were really close friends. He said he loves her. He keeps on, saying that, she's a dear friend of his. But she got on TV and she called him a chameleon. And because they're children in that party, because if you call them something, they'll say, I know you are, but what am I? J.D. Vance got on the TV yesterday and called Kamala a chameleon. Donald Trump has been called weird. Donald Trump got on the TV last night and said, they're weird. I know you are, but what am I? This is the level of maturity you really want to see in our leaders, right?
Mary had a little man.
We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon.
I have a dream today.
Change has come to America.
Believe me. Help is on the way.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show. Turn up your mind.
I am honored to be the presumptive Democratic nominee for President of the United States. Oh! And I will tell you the tireless work of our delegates, our state leaders, and staff has been pivotal in making this moment possible. And your dedication cannot be overstated. Your dedication to our country. I know we all feel this way so strongly. We love our country. We believe in the promise of America. And that's what this campaign is about. So, of course, I will officially accept your nomination next week once the virtual voting period is closed. But already I'm happy to know that we have enough delegates to secure the nomination. And later this month, we will gather in Chicago, united as one party, where we're going to have an opportunity to celebrate this historic moment together.
That was her acceptance of the nomination. Everything now is happening on a Zoom call. I don't know. I guess they're trying to make people remember what happened during COVID. Everything's on a Zoom call now. In fact, the virtual nomination happened on a Zoom call. So she reached the threshold of delegates needed to capture the Democratic presidential nomination. She is our nominee. She is our candidate for the next 94 days. That's it. I mean, it's like a speed president, it's like speed, voting. I'm very excited. North Carolina starts voting in, I think, 35 days. That's when early voting opens up in that state. So here's what's supposed to happen over the weekend. Pritzker is very funny. He is referring to this sprint because, picking a vice president usually takes many, many, many months, right? You first, see the person on the TV. Maybe they go on the Sunday shows. Maybe they do a few radio shows. Oh, really? Yeah. And that there's like 10 people listening to this thing. and they're all on the same line and blah, blah, blah. And then maybe if they pass that test, then they go on to the TV test. And if the TV cue is good and the, response is good and the person looks good on the TV and all, because this is how we pick leaders now. I swear to God, it's very sick, but it's true. Again, we would never have had FDR if FDR had to run for president on television. America does not elect a man in a wheelchair with a wife who looks like Eleanor, okay, who was somehow more involved with her secretary than her beloved husband. I'm just saying, there's no way they could have gotten through a presidential campaign, let alone 3 of them, on television. And we would have not had the best president that we've had. But anyway, so usually it takes months to pick a vice president. It just takes a really long time. And then after they do the Sunday shows, then there's face-to-faces. And then there's a vetting of the background, like legal vetting. In this case, it's being done by Eric Holder, just so that you have a piece of information that most people don't. Eric Holder has been doing all the in-person vetting, all the background checks, everything on the candidates that remain in consideration for the vice presidential run, along with our nominee, Kamala Harris, right? And so we're going to know the answer to who she picked on Tuesday. But this weekend is sort of what Pritzker, who's the governor of Illinois, and apparently, being considered too, he's referring to it as, like Vice President Palooza, okay, Lollapalooza. Because all the people that are still in the running have to do a face-to-face this weekend, and they were all of them were told to clear their schedules for the next foreseeable future, especially the next week, right? Why? Because beginning on Tuesday after the announcement, which will happen in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and we are being told not to read anything into the fact that it's happening in Pennsylvania into Josh Shapiro being the one, because he's governor of Pennsylvania. We're being told, don't do that. Don't make that assumption. Don't jump. And the only reason why we said Philly is because it's a good media market. It's close to New York. It's close to D.C. Reporters can get there. Media can get there, etc. That's what we were told about the selection of Philadelphia being the place to announce who the candidate will be. But right after they announced, anyway, Pritzker was very funny. He said, he joked, he said, I had to cancel a performance at Lollapalooza with Blink-182 on Sunday due to being, in part, in consideration to join the presidential ticket. He actually said he was, going to be on stage with Blink-182 at Lollapalooza. I mean, and, it's like me. I think I'm singing with Ann Wilson every weekend. I hope she's okay. Do you know that my beloved Ann Wilson has been diagnosed with cancer? She doesn't say what. But she has been. And, I just wish her the speediest and the most non-intrusive recovery possible. Okay? My friend Terry, I just want to say, if anybody that is listening on behalf of Ann Wilson, because she knows I'm like a mega fan, my best friend from childhood, Terry, okay, she was diagnosed with 4th stage lung cancer 2 years ago. And she decided to go a non-traditional route, the biologics, no surgery, blah, 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 and take her chances. It wasn't yesterday. It was the day before yesterday. She was pronounced cancer-free. And that's partly because we have presidents like Biden who believed in a cancer moonshot, who believed that we could cure cancer in his lifetime, okay? So just saying, I'm a breast cancer survivor. There's a lot of, good results, possibilities now. It's just like when Biden says there's nothing we can't do if we do it together. He means that too. But anyway, so back to the VP. So we don't know who the VP is going to be. It will be announced on Tuesday in Philly. And then in 4 days, there's going to be a barnstorming of, they're going to go together. For the first time, the president and the vice presidential nominee for the Democratic Party, they're going to go to West Wisconsin. Now, West Wisconsin is right near Minnesota. So, fingers crossed, just saying, Mr. Walls, really love you a lot. I mean, he's smart. He's brilliant. He's a teacher. Oh, I should tell you what Josh Shapiro was doing today. Okay, the media doesn't cover any of this stuff, so I will. So I saw Josh Shapiro because I see everything. I'm the eye in the sky. Randi, eye in the sky. Yeah, that's me. But truly, I used to sing that song that way. But Josh Shapiro was at Cheney University, which is a historically black college and university. It's at HBCU. Cheney, I believe, is the first HBCU in the United States of America, and it is primarily a teachers' university. It trains teachers. They say that if you are a Pennsylvania teacher, 99% of the time you went to, especially if you're African American, you went to Cheney. So Shapiro was there today announcing a 6% budget increase for Cheney University. I thought that was kind of, I mean, it's like JD being at the border, with the props. I don't know. I didn't love that. And then Buttigieg, I bet you don't know where he was today, but I do. He was in Kokomo, Indiana, and he was proud to announce, more investment in battery factories. And he was talking about how the Rust Belt is now the battery belt, and that it's because he's from there, right? He is from Indiana and now lives in Michigan. That he knows what it's like to grow up in the Rust Belt, and that they're transforming it for the first time ever. Like, everybody has talked about it, but nobody's done it. And here you could see it happening. And it was a great speech. It was really, really good. But it's, again, like being at the border with props. So, nobody's hands are clean on this particular thing. However, that is what they were doing today. So it looks like we're going to find out who the VP is on Tuesday for sure. And then they're going to go to West Wisconsin, Detroit, Raleigh, North Carolina, Savannah, Georgia, Phoenix, Arizona, Las Vegas, Nevada, just barnstorming through all of these states that are must-win swing states at this point, right? And it should be very exciting next week. It really should. So I don't know who you're rooting for. There's a lot of good people in there.
All things Randi at RandiRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
I wonder about J.D. Vance, though, Trump's pick as his VP nominee. He's from a Rust Belt state. He supported the UAW strike last fall. He visited the picket line. I mean, the presumption here is that Vance is supposed to help Trump speak to the part of the country where you have a lot of members, where Democrats absolutely must win. Do you see Vance making it harder for Vice President Harris and whoever her running mate is to win in that part of the country?
I don't see it at all. I mean, look, let's just be real. J.D. Vance, in my opinion, is a fraud. I mean, look, I've got, he wrote his book, Hillbilly Elegy. I mean, look, I've got hillbilly roots. My grandparents all come from Tennessee and Kentucky in the hills, and they were dirt poor. They went through the Great Depression. They migrated north, like many families did back in those days in the 30s and 40s. And, my grandparents, my family members were able to get jobs at UAW factories at GM and Chrysler, and they lived the American dream. But one thing my grandparents taught us growing up, and my parents taught us, was you never forget where you come from. And, J.D. Vance, went to work with a venture capitalist and, a billionaire. And obviously those people they have no concern for working class people. They have no concern for businesses they take over and pillage and rip apart and tear communities apart. So while he can claim he's for the working people, I mean, his body of work shows different.
His body of work says different. That's Sean Fain. He's the president of the United Auto Workers Union, who endorsed Kamala Harris this week. They were late to the game. They wanted to actually poll their members because obviously the UAW has a large union membership in the state of Michigan. And a lot of people in Michigan had a very definite opinion about what was going on in foreign policy, what was going on specifically in Gaza. And so he wanted to make sure before he endorsed anybody, whether or not their position on that issue comported with his membership's position on that issue. And they did he did a very deep dive before he endorsed. A lot of unions endorsed, like the service workers, the SEIU. A lot of unions had no problem endorsing Kamala, right away, because obviously Democrats are union, pro-union. We want to see, people be able to organize union shops wherever they are. Now, the Republicans had card check and all kinds of, prohibitions against starting union. They did the right to work state, which is exactly the opposite of what it sounds like it is. It's not a right to work. It's you can't form a union and make other people feel like they have to join it. Even making people feel something that might be good for them is in Republican world an anathema to the big business hopes, dreams, and wishes, and they are the donors to that party. So anyway, we know Democrats are more pro-union. And so, most of the unions went ahead and endorsed, but Sean Fain really withheld until he was very clear that his membership wanted him to endorse, and they did. They're totally down. So that was great, and he endorsed, and he said, listen, as far as this posers, as far as J.D. Vance's chameleon-like posing, depending on who he's talking to, he'll say whatever they need to hear from him in order to either be accepted by them or to get money from them, or because he's a huge passive aggressive. I don't know which it is with him, but he said he's a fraud, he's a fake, he's a phony, and everyone that knows him, including his college buddy there, Sophia, all say the same thing. They all say that. They say he is a chameleon. He will change everything he says and feels and advocates for, depending on who he's standing in front of at the time. Now, I'm sorry, but when did character stop mattering? When did that happen? Now, Donald Trump has also said a couple things, okay? You can tell he's very jealous. He's very jealous of the reception Kamala is getting in this country. He's jealous of the people who are showing up on these Zoom calls in this country. I mean, hundreds of thousands of people, started by black women who had the best freaking idea, okay? One that was easy to participate in. People were excited to find a way to participate. They said, oh, here you go. I mean, we're going to do a Zoom call. 44,000 people showed up for the first one. 50,000 people showed up for the second one. Then we had white dudes, okay? The white dudes call had 100,000 plus people. And, lots of star power. White dudes actually had the dude, okay? White dudes actually had Luke Skywalker. Mark Hamill. I love him. Hi, Mark. He follows me. I follow him too. But they had like an amazing assortment. Bradley Whitford. They had amazing star power gathered for her on that phone call. And then they did. They did an LGBT one. They did. It's white women, black women. It's just like unbelievable results. Unbelievable. And Donald cannot stand it. It's wigging him out, man. It's wigging him out to what? Because, look, the idea that he got his ass kicked last time was so hard for him to accept that he didn't. No, he never did. He never conceded the race. He said it was stolen. To this minute, he will tell you it's rigged, to the point where Fox News, when he calls in, they have to warn him. And you can see it right in front of your face if that's all you have to watch on your basic cable channel, okay? A lot of, people, I was explaining this to Brett today, that people don't, it's like there's this an amazing story, okay, about the most massive drug bust that just happened down at the border of fentanyl, okay? I mean, 1,000 pounds, 4 million fentanyl pills weighing more than 1,000 pounds, half a ton, was seized at the border yesterday in the largest fentanyl bust in U.S. Custom and Border Protection's history. Actually, it happened July 1st. We're just finding out about it yesterday, okay? And then there was a second seizure on July 12th that resulted in another 270 pounds of drugs, this time meth. Millions of dollars away from the cartels. Millions of pills from being distributed inside the United States. Tons of meth not being ingested by people in this country, okay? It was an enormous amount of dangerous drugs. And who was doing the smuggling? who, this is why I think, it's an amazing story, but it's also important. It was a 20-year-old kid, 20-year-old white guy at a legal port of entry with his, I think he had a 2011 pickup truck towing an SUV behind him. And the Border Patrol saw that there were some alterations to the frame of the trailer he was pulling. And so they gave him the extra once-over, and that's how they discovered all this. But 20-year-old white kid from Arizona, okay, coming over in Lukeville, Port of Lukeville, which is a legal port of entry, but it's one of the smaller ones. Doesn't have the kind of assets. Now remember, Donald Trump defeated a bill that would have given more assets for drug detection to places like the Port of Lukeville.
Call in, connect. Speak to Randi. Call 561-270-3844. 561-270-3844.
I want to ask you about the former president's comments yesterday to the National Association of Black Journalists, where he said that Vice President Harris is, quote, all of a sudden black. As a father of 3 biracial children, did those comments give you pause at all?
They don't give me pause at all. Look, all he said is that Kamala Harris is a chameleon. She goes to Georgia 2 days ago. She was raised in Canada. She puts on a fake Southern accent. She is everything to everybody, and she pretends to be somebody different depending on which audience she's in front of. I think it's totally reasonable for the president to call that out, and that's all he did. I mean, look, she's running as a tough-on-crime prosecutor, even though she implemented open border policies. She's saying that she wants to support the police, yet she wanted to defund the police just 3 years ago.
You're insane.
It's totally reasonable to call out the fact that she pretends to be somebody different depending on the audience she's talking to.
I mean, this is total projection. He must have heard everybody that he loves. I bet you he watched the interview with Sophia Nelson, his friend, his beloved friend. I mean, they were very, very, very close at Yale. And he must have heard her saying that JD is a total chameleon. She doesn't even know who he is anymore. He has no integrity. Depending on who he's talking to, he will actually become nasty. And, he used to, at least if we disagreed, he would operate from a place of kindness and empathy and, friendship. And now that's all gone. And he must have heard it. And so he decided to lob it back at, instead of his friend, because she would have just gotten right back on the TV and said, he's insane. At Kamala Harris, who has no time for him right now. She's very busy. Got things to do, fish to fry, people to hire.
I've said for a little while, if you want to rise in the Republican Party, 2 things: no moral compass and absolutely immune to irony. That is a crazy sound coming out of him.
Well, I'm telling you, he heard her. He heard Sophia. I mean, what were the first words out of her mouth, okay?
What I've seen is a chameleon, someone who is able to change their positions and their values depending on what will amass them political power and wealth.
There you go. Both went to Yale. Both, she's a public defender, by the way, in Detroit. It's an amazing thing. But and the same thing with Donald Trump. Okay, he must have heard every single body, from people who host podcasts to free speech TV hosts to newspaper people to pundits to election, pollsters, every person in the world, surrogates for Kamala, vice presidential candidates, and possibilities, all calling him weird, right? This all started because Tim Walz, the governor of Minnesota, actually said that. He said he's just so weird. Everything about him is weird. And it felt right to everybody who was saying it. It just felt like that sums it all up without being, too much in his face. I mean, he calls us thugs. He calls us cheats. Listen, the people who know him best, like his lawyers and his former staff at the White House, his chief of staff, his secretary of defense, his Department of Justice AGs, none of them will appear on the same stage as him. None of them will endorse him. None of them will be were on the convention stage. I thought that was extremely telling, that anybody who worked with him, anybody at all, refused to be at the Republican National Convention where he was nominated. They just wouldn't show up for him. Just period, end of story, right? But the people who know him best, they've got a few adjectives for him, but it's mostly racist, cheat, liar, fraud, narcissist, psychotic, self-serving. It's a lot harder than weird. Do you know? But Walz is a Minnesota nice guy. And so, that was the word that he picked to explain what is just so unbelievable about this entire party headed up by this weirdo and he even said, he's got weird hair. I mean, why are we so afraid to say the emperor has no clothes? I've never been afraid, but there are people that need to transition, okay, from from MAGA into the real world, whether they do it in baby steps and become an independent or they go full out and get their Democratic voter registration card. Don't care, doesn't matter. Independents pick the president. That's a fact. And independents in swing states like Michigan, Nevada, Arizona, Georgia, Pennsylvania, they pick the president. They do. So anyway, leaving MAGA, it's no big damn deal because there aren't enough of them anyway to make him president. You need independents, okay? And also he needs a good chunk of, African Americans. He needs a good chunk of Hispanics. And this racist thing that he's been, doubling down on lately, it's so weird in that he's going to alienate those who may have, especially black men, who may have been willing to vote for him, but now will not because rule number 1, defend the sister. And he is attacking her racially, and that ain't gonna fly. Period. End of story. So it's weird, right? It's weird. So Trump gets on the radio yesterday and he goes, I'm not weird. They're weird. I know you are, but what am I? See, this is what JD did too. She called me a chameleon. I'll call somebody else a chameleon. I know you are, but what am I? I know you are, but what am I?
Nobody's ever called me weird. I'm a lot of things, but weird I'm not. And I'm up front.
Oh, God.
And he's not either, I will tell you. JD is not at all. They are. It's all a soundbite. And the press picks it up. You notice the evening news, every one of them they introduce the word weird, and all of a sudden they're talking about weird. No, we're not weird people. We're actually just the opposite.
No, you're lying weirdos, okay? You're cheats, you're frauds, and you're weird in that you attack the people whose vote you need the most. That's strange. Strange equal weird. And weird is the nicest word that I can come up with to describe anything about you and what you've done to 30% of this country. I mean, you've made them cult members. It's like an indoctrination into some, Heaven's Gate thing. It's so weird is what it is. But he's like, I know you are, but what am I? I'm not weird. They're weird. They're weird. They're the weirdos. That's who they are. They are. I mean, don't we want a mature adult in charge of the economy? Don't we want a mature adult in charge of the border? Oh, and by the way, J.D. Vance is down at the border, down at the border. And nobody is covering this fentanyl bust that happened down at the border, which I think is unbelievable success. I mean, that is a big-ass success. He talked a great game, fentanyl. He doesn't know what it is, okay? He has no earthly idea what it is. He doesn't know how it gets here. He doesn't know that American citizens, through legal ports of entry, bring it in. That you don't give 1,000 pounds of fentanyl to an immigrant who may or may not make it into the country. And when they do, if they do, well, very first thing they'll do is surrender to Border Patrol. Why? To make a claim of asylum. See? You don't give them the fentanyl.
This is the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
Mr. Trump is a racist.
Oh.
The country has seen Mr. Trump court white supremacists and bigots. You have heard him call poorer countries shitholes. In private, he is even worse. He once asked me if I could name a country run by a black person that wasn't a shithole. This was when Barack Obama was president of the United States. And while we were once driving through a struggling neighborhood in Chicago, he commented that only black people could live that way. And he told me that black people would never vote for him because they were too stupid. And yet, I continued to work for him.
He is a con man. He is a cheat. He is a racist and weird. Look at his hair doozy there. I mean, who puts on like brownish, orangish, self-tanner every single day, but, you know, leaves a ring around your face white? I mean, it's just weird. He's a weirdo. Brother David.
Sister.
Yes.
Freedom Forward Friday.
Yeah, there you go.
Listen, to say that I feel personally vindicated by the events of the last 2 weeks is to resort to massive, if not conservative, understatement. Because in 2011, this unknown to me district attorney from Alameda County began her run for district attorney general of the state, and happened to mention that a priority was getting black box, unreceipted, Diebold-esque voting machines out of the state. And the two little invisible antennae that live at the back of Brother David's skull went firm in the air. And the last time that had happened was at the 2004 Democratic Convention, when an equally then unknown to me junior senator from Illinois said in the middle of an electrifying keynote address, and there are people in red states who want the right to love whom they choose. So I've been following her for a long time. And here we are.
Yes, I mean, you know, better circumstances, you know, would have been next cycle, you know, obviously. But, you know, listen, the Dark Brandon is so unbelievably good at loving this country that here we are, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the conventional wisdom no longer applies. I have literally, in the last, it feels like a century ago, but in the last 3.5 weeks, since I was having to talk activists from as far afield as Galway, Ireland, and Vancouver, and Chicago, and Portland off the ledge after the debate debacle, they are now calling me since 2 weeks ago Sunday. The one in Ireland has rejiggered their visa so they can come back and campaign for her.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Right?
Yeah.
This is not going, the conventional wisdom doesn't apply. This is going to be the first truly 21st century election cycle we've seen.
Yes, it is. And this is the first passing of the torch that we have had since 1992.
Bingo.
So, yes, it's time. It is time. Like I said, Joe Biden is a patriot. He really loves this
an
country.
Incalculable a gratitude debt the entire nation owes him, and still does for the next, however, 5.5, 6 months.
Yep. That's it.
And now I am off to turn my favorite meme, which is the one from the end of The Wizard of Oz, where they're all sitting around Dorothy on the bed, but Nancy is Auntie M, and Kamala and Michelle are Ray Bolger and Bert Lahr, and Joe is Uncle Henry, and Chuck is Jack Haley, and Obama's Professor Marvel looking into the window. And who's Dorothy in the bed? The Statue of Liberty. Into a T-shirt. We got work to do.
You know, that's not gay at all. So
no, well,
go for it.
And you and I have to add stunning stilettos, perfect pearls, and snazzy sneakers, the gorgeous girdles for everyone.
And not just a few.
Love you always.
I mean, of course Judy Garland had to be involved in his meme. Of course. Lynn in Oregon.
Yes, hello there.
Hello.
Thanks for taking my call.
All right.
I was wondering, how do we get legislation, a CARES Act, where you actually pay people to care and not kill? We have 1.7 million plus 501c3s that are carrying jobs that can become sole purpose carrying jobs for people to live with basic income.
What are you talking about?
I'm trying to ask you how to go about getting the Vatican nation, all the churches, Noetic Sciences, here, Stanford education, to get the legislation legislation for a CARES Act and get the radios, TV, social media focused on advertising implementation of a CARES Act where you pay people to care, not kill?
I don't know. I don't know.
Lynn, your topic was how do we get dark money out of Congress? That was...
I don't know. I don't know the answer to any of that, okay? I am not, the great Oz, okay? I am not the all-knowing also. I don't even know what you're talking about.
Those words she said individually make sense, but when she puts them together in that order, she is making no sense.
So the idea of the answer to any question that begins with how do you get legislation is you vote for a party that is about that, not for the party that's against that, whatever that thing is that you're for. That's the answer to how do you get legislation, which is what she was asking me. I don't know, what she wants legislated. She mentioned the Vatican. She mentioned churches. She mentioned Stanford. So I don't know. I do know that the way you get legislation passed is you vote for people who believe in your policy. Period. End of story. Joe in California.
Hi, Randy.
Hello.
Happy Friday.
Happy Friday, you bastard.
I can't tell you how ecstatically happy we are here with this nomination.
Yeah.
I am just, we are so overjoyed. We've been, I watch every day, but we were really scared, and now we're overjoyed.
Well, I think, I don't know if we were scared. I think we were in despair. I personally, as you know, always believed, and I told this to my dentist with all those, utensils in my mouth, I would say, he can win. Nobody wanted to believe me, but I do think he could have won. I know that.
I do too.
Yeah, okay. So there's that. But now everybody's excited, and so the turnout's going to be humongous.
She's going to have to pick somebody that she can work with. I think that's the important part, because she's been my senator for, a number of years before she was the vice president.
Yeah.
But she's a person that you need to find that somebody that you have simpatico with this short run up to the presidency. And I'm just going to throw his name out there because I was a little hoping for him. And Gavin Newsom is a very smart man. And I don't know if that's going to be your pick, but I think she needs to find somebody that she can work with.
You can't have the president and the vice president from the same state.
Well,
you can't.
That's really unfortunate.
Well, yeah, but it's true. And so it can't happen. That's the thing. It can't. It's impossible. It's anti-constitutional. I don't know how else to say it, but you can't. You can't have.
You can't.
No.
Could he serve in another capacity than the vice president?
Oh, absolutely. Okay. Yes, of course. Yeah.
I want her to surround herself with the brightest people we have.
She will. Let me tell you something. This administration is, hardly inaugurated, right? So by the time they are, she will have cabinet members and, agency heads and an attorney. Can you imagine Kamala picking the attorney general? I mean, it's a beautiful thing. All of this is good, all of it. And so whoever doesn't get picked on Tuesday, whoever doesn't, if it's not Kelly, if it's not Pritzker, if it's not Walz, if it's not Buttigieg, if it's not, obviously can't be Gavin Newsom, they will all be put to work at their best possible positions, in their best possible positions to serve. Everybody's going to get to work. Everybody.
I'm hoping that we can take the House and the Senate in one fell swoop and build the legacy that we deserve.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're going to show up. I mean, I really do. I do think, yeah. And when turnout is low, they eke out a win. It happens all the time. But when turnout is high, as Brother David would say, there are more of us than there are of them. And so when we show up, we win. This is pretty much the message that is the one that needs to be said over and over and over. And, like I watched somebody look at this on TV, with Idiot Boy, and they go, oh, my God, did he just call her suddenly black? And how do I make it stop? You vote. You vote.